a real pleasure to be here and great to see you all today. Well, I think Ywangi really kicked off things well for us and gave a good synopsis for today. Today, I really want to kind of get to the heart of this for me, and there is, for me, a key word. What you're going to see today is one thing that I want to really zero in on. I think for this audience, I'd like to think it's pretty obvious for you all, but I want it to be a reminder as to what we all need to get back to as leaders, as customer advocates, and as leaders for our employees too. So this is not just going to be about our customers, it's going to be about our teams and the people that we work with. But we can't talk about tough times without talking about tough times. So we have to start with acknowledging the past few years. It's been interesting, and we kind of stand on the precipice of more to come. We talk a lot about looming recessions. I think it's just been around the corner for a year now, and every day you wake up thinking, is today the day? It hasn't come yet, but it's still something that's very present, and I think that there's a real opportunity for us to kind of lean into the tough times right now and to use that as a way to start to think about who we are and how we operate. In contrast to the challenges we've seen in the last few years, we've also seen this kind of parallel universe that continues to move along for us. And it's been happening not just in the times of COVID and others, but it's been happening for a long time. We talk about these tech unicorns, these companies that we all aspire to be, and that we're told that that's who you need to be. You need to go after your $1 billion valuation, you need to keep going, and you need to do the things that they do. When you think about the things that they do, we kind of rattle off all of these kind of key words and these things that, for me, I've advocated for every one of the things that I've just listed up on that screen. And all of them, I think, are important. They are part of, I think, being a good business, an active business, and there's a lot that we can learn from there. What I think is, when we kind of back up to that word of customer-centric, it's one of those things. And it's a great example, I think, of a phrase that really gets superficial treatment from a lot of people. And I think it's a lot of the words that you see up there. Everyone kind of digs in and starts to say, well, I see those words and I see what they mean, and they take their meaning away and they run with it, and that's what we see. But what we see through a lot of that is actually just failed execution, failed follow-through, and you end up walking away looking for the next word, the next answer to come, so you can aspire to be that organisation, that tech unicorn. Coming back for a moment, let me talk a little bit about MYOB. So I've been with MYOB for the last few years. We are an Australian and New Zealand company that started 30 years ago. We often think of ourselves as one of the first tech unicorns, if not the first tech unicorn in Australia. Back in the days, if you kind of rattle off all the accelerating companies that are coming through now from Australia and stepping onto the world stage, we've been there for a very long time. And with that comes some interesting challenges in itself. With 30 years of history, you have 30 years of customers that you've worked with over that time. And we have some amazing customers. I've met some people that have been with us for the entire journey. We talk about the fact that they bleed purple blood for us too. And those customers, you sit down with them, they will tell you about the good and the bad times with MYOB, when we've done things amazing for them and when we've done things to let them down. What we've also seen is that through that period, we see customers that are willing to kind of move forward and move with the advances that you want to bring to market and how you want to create that shift. For us, MYOB provides accounting software and business management software, so it's not the most exciting thing. Well, I find it exciting. I think kind of writing accounting software, tax rules, it's great from a technology perspective. Funnily enough, it's my favourite stuff to do. But what you see is most people don't see that way. I think I could probably ask for a show of hands, but I don't want to embarrass anyone to start to say, well, when was the last time you updated your ERP or your payroll system? For probably a good half of you, probably couldn't even estimate that. In a lot of other cases, it's been a long time. And so there's that other aspect for us as a business, that we do have customers that they're happy with the solution that they have today, And as you're trying to move them forward, that it's like, no, I have my processes. I have the things that I want to do. I don't need change until I'm ready for change too. So we have a real interesting challenge for ourselves as a business, and I think that all businesses have this, is that when we start to come back to that word of customer centricity, we're often being pulled in many different directions. The more successful you are, the longer you've been around, you've got more opinions about who you are and who you should be. And that's really kind of at the heart of the challenge that we have. I've actually, coming back to that point where we see what Martin Fowler has a great article on semantic diffusion, this idea that once people pick up a phrase like this and it just kind of starts to become all these other things, it's based upon the reader or the observer as to what that definition is. I hope I got that right for Martin and just semantic diffusion. But I think a big part of this is that customer centricity can quickly become, let's just do what the customer wants. And we should do that. And there's a lot of pressure for organisations to do that because you're aiming for growth. You're looking to move forward and fast in your organisation, and picking up that next customer takes you on that journey. But picking up that next customer, building out that new product feature that they want, may get you that short-term growth, but can sometimes set you on the wrong path. I've certainly been in a lot of conversations in the past few years, and not just at MYOB, but before that, where that customer-centric conversation is about just kind of giving control over to your customer. And I think that's a real challenge for us, right? And I think it does pull you in different directions. So when I think about that, and I think about, well, what is it at the heart of customer centricity, and what do I talk to my staff about, my team, and kind of weigh into those conversations around should we do it or not? There's probably three areas that I start to think about, and I've kind of put some words to those things. First of all, there's the actuality. It's like, what is going on? I think that's a big part of design thinking that we've already heard today. I think it's going out, talking to your customers and understanding their context and their needs. Absolutely important and central to what we do. It's also about understanding the environment in which our customers operate and the environment in which we're operating. Both in terms of our funding cycles, our budgets, our capabilities, and where we're headed to. So, I think it's important to take stock of the current state and what the current needs are. You've got to then follow that through with an ambition. So ambition is good. I'm not saying here that don't go after that customer, don't go and try and solve problems. This is what we do. This is our job. This is who we are. Is we identify opportunities. And we seek to solve them, to be able to grow our businesses, to solve customer problems, and to be great businesses. But I think that a lot of organisations stop here. It's like, well, there's a customer need, and we want to fill it, and that's it. And I think that's a good start, but it's not the end of the story. And I actually think this next phrase for me is the key word and the thing that we often forget to do for ourselves, and that's being authentic, or it's leaning into authenticity. I've used a lot of the phrase of who we are and what we do, and I think that the bigger emphasis for me is on the what we do side of things, of authenticity. What that means to me is, it's yes, we have values, yes, we have, I want to dress in a certain way, I want to appear in a certain way, but I think a big part of being authentic and being authentic as an organisation and as a leader is about follow through and execution and doing the same thing time and time again. And I think that's at the heart of customer centricity. All right? So we keep going into the onion, and this is right there in the centre, and something that I want to remind you all to think about and lean into, not just for your customers, but as we go through the content of the next couple of days. I think there's a lot of potential out there, but I think that you've got to back yourself, and you've got to be running hard at it. So what I thought I would do is to kind of bring that into reality, is share some personal stories of what that looks like for me and for MYOB. Now, some of these stories don't put us in the best light, and I think to me that's part of me being authentic. I think it's about leaning in that conversation. It's also about while I may not be the person and entitled to give you all permission to do these things, but I want to encourage you to give yourself permission to do these things, to be authentic, to be genuine, to be honest, and to be consistent. So I'm going to start with Centricity around support for our customers. Probably heard a little bit about it today. I had, at dinner last night, we talked about that too, is that, when we provide software and when we provide accounting software, it's not the most trivial thing. There's a lot of complexity to it. When someone's trying to pay and do their payroll, that can get, if that goes wrong, that's a pretty stressful thing. And knowing all the rules and regulations that kind of go into the software and to support the automation of these processes means that customers often want to reach out for support, and they want to know that they've got someone to back them up when things go wrong. And that's not just the software not working or something going wrong there. It's often about the processes and the regulations and just advice. And so we have long had a history of being a company that you can just pick up the phone and speak to. And that's a great kind of desire for many of us. We just want to find another human being that can help us through that problem. The challenge, though, is that that's a customer need, in that kind of complex and stressful space. But being able to meet that need at the exact right time, either A, requires great prediction, or it requires a lot of people just sitting around waiting for phone calls, and trying to get that right is a hard thing. And I think that being honest with ourselves and honest with our customers, it's a costly thing to do. So what do we do? I think at the same point, we also see our customers' sentiment changing. Some don't really want to be talking to another person, especially the introverts of us out there probably would prefer to self-serve and deal with digital tools to be able to do that too. When we also put money into the call center and have more staff to shorten the call service, the wait times for our customers, it's actually redirecting budgets and funds to other things away from our products to reduce the root cause issues in our products and improving the experience overall. So we have this tension in our business, as do most. And so what do you do about that? I think ultimately the authentic response is to pick a direction. Not just try to kind of peanut butter this and try to spread it across a lot of different things. And so we have been on a journey in the last few years of moving from a phone-based support model to a digital support model. And it's been a bumpy ride along the way. We have customers that absolutely want to have that phone experience and call us. But ultimately, we think that this is the best thing for our customers overall to drive the right experience and at the scale that we have. So I think that's an important thing to be clear on what we're going to do and how you're going to do it consistently, and be clear with your customers on that. Now, I think the upside of that for us right now is we're getting about 80% of our support requests going through our digital channels are being resolved entirely through the digital channel right now. So we're seeing some good results. And there's still plenty of things to improve upon, but we're actually being able to create more space for ourselves to work through that. Another example is around product. And we've got a number of products in market. We've got some, over the past few years, we've been moving our customers from desktop solutions to online solutions, and that's something that is a lot of the time at the customer pace. A few years ago, we released a product to a very important segment of our customer base. And one of the things that kind of went a little bit awry for us was that absolutely the direction was to move our customers into cloud-based solutions. That is the direction that we feel is the right direction. It's the direction a lot of our customers want us to move in. But the consequence of that is we needed to take a big leap in experience and change that experience. Now, this customer group values efficiency. They provide services to other small businesses. And by changing the workflow for them from a desktop experience to an online experience, really damaged the productivity of that group for a period of time. Now, we spent time with them over the coming months to actually chip away at those productivity issues, and we are now back in a position for the past year or more where our customers are seeing the ongoing improvements that we're able to bring into that product, while also delivering great efficiency for them. Now, for me, the authenticity of this was recognizing a direction again, following it through and being clear on customers that we're not taking a backward step here, that this is where the innovation is, and this is where it's going to happen. When you think about it, even our internal success teams and our sales teams struggled with that change for a period of time because they wanted to satisfy the immediate needs of the customer. To me, that that point where we're standing still and not moving forward was actually, I think, an inauthentic way in which we're engaging the customer. It was not going to set them up for the future. It was going to hold them back and hold us back together. And I think that was a great outcome for anyone. So, look, this has been a great journey and a challenging journey for us in the last couple of years in terms of making that shift. But as we're bringing newer product to market and newer features, we're seeing that we're actually tackling this a lot faster and having great experiences for our customers. And recent products to that segment that we've launched, we now have our kind of UMUX numbers hitting 80% and above in that space too. So we're seeing some good results. Another area I think that's important to think about is internal authenticity to your teams and others. Now, as a CTO, I've got a lot of developers that we work with day to day in the organisation, and I think what we did and what I came to at MYOB was an organisation that had adopted a lot of agile values, worked with decentralised teams, and really focused on giving teams the autonomy and the power to make their own decisions. The challenge with that was that we saw, I think, teams starting to make low-value decisions because they had control over those things rather than thinking about the bigger picture. That meant that teams were choosing languages, programming languages and different technology that kind of set them apart from everyone else. It gave them an ability to learn and to develop their own skills and keep themselves interested, but it came at the cost of kind of watering down the investment and the value that we could bring to our organisation and also the industry. I think that, so what we did here was actually introduce our own version of the Thoughtworks technology radar as a way to be able to communicate the context across our many teams to help them understand what technology we think is appropriate to use and what technology we should be holding off using. Now that meant we actually kind of backtracked on some of the technology that teams had deployed, and that did have some pushback from teams because they felt, well, this is against our idea of autonomy and innovation and us changing the industry. But to be candid, a handful of developers running Scala in one room and another handful running Clojure in another room is not going to change the industry for us, right? It means that we're actually kind of, again, spreading things too broadly to be able to make a change here. So I had to lean into that conversation. I had to be authentic to kind of start to say, this is who we are, this is what we're going to back, and we're going to keep putting money in these things to achieve that outcome, not just kind of spread it around and do all of the things that you want to do. It's a hard conversation, but I think it's an important one, and it's an important one to kind of be honest with the people that work around you. One more example that I have here is in the context of remuneration. In 2021, I'm sure you all had similar experiences. We had attrition happening early part of the year because companies were paying developers 30, 40K to walk down the street and do the same job in another organisation because they couldn't get them from anywhere else. We were faced with a real challenge there, which was my leadership team was turning to me and saying, we just have to kind of respond to this. We've got to give the dollars. We've just got to pay people more. And that's not a really sustainable thing. I'm sure you've actually all had to lean into that conversation too. And so what did we do? Look, we wanted to be a great organisation. We wanted to be a great place and pay people really well. But just giving everyone a 10, 20% pay increase today meant that I was going to have to do it again in 6 months and then 12 months and just keep doing that time and time again. So what we did was we just lent into our processes. We have a regular progressions and promotions process, which we just kind of, just kept on chipping away at over the next year. And our engagement results actually improved by 10% over that period because we actually showed consistency. When people are walking out the door, yes, you're getting that big money today, but you're starting to kind of see that that's starting to disappear pretty quickly too. So I think that's another important thing for us to see from that authenticity point, is being clear on what we're going to follow through and what was important to us, and that was being true, consistent, and have the integrity to keep pushing through on that. That then kind of leans into the looking forward and the tough times for us with a few seconds to go. So the first thing, as we look forward, I think about the tough times. For me, I'm actually excited about this period. This has actually been a great year for me in the context that the constraints that we're being placed on us all because we're kind of preparing ourselves for tough times, means that it's allowing us to actually focus in on what's most important to us. And so I want to kind of give that encouragement to everyone here today to kind of start to say, use this moment to realize that this is where you get that opportunity to kind of understand who you are and how you're going to back yourself in what things you're going to do. And that's going to drive the next period and help you set up and have great conversations with the teams when the money starts flowing again. In the AI and ML space, we're going to hear a lot about that today. What are we doing in that? If we've got this parallel world opening up and we've got to do all this stuff and I'm starting to tighten up money in other areas, what are we going to do here? That doesn't mean I'm not going to put money behind this. It doesn't mean that we're not going to experiment on it. But what we're talking to our people about right now is experiment, but execution is king. So yes, we're going to play with some things. Yes, we're going to try some stuff out and find what that right thing is. But we're not going to do it everywhere. We're not going to run after, chase down all these different opportunities. It's going to come back to starting to find the areas that are going to be differentiating for us. Because when you think about it, generative AI has just filled in a whole bunch of moats for us all, and competitive moats. And what that's going to mean is we're going to have to start thinking about where is the most important place for us to innovate, not just everywhere. And again, leaning into that conversation is important. So I just wanted to kind of wrap that up with you all, just to kind of then think about that. That's my pitch to you all, is just to kind of remember that, yes, we're facing into tough times. Yes, we need to be customer-centric, but this is actually a really important time for us to think about who we are and what we're willing to actually follow through on, because I don't think it just sets you up now, it actually sets you up well for the future. So be honest with yourself and your others on what you will do and what you will do consistently, and I think that will ensure that you have the right customers for you and the right people around you to be successful. All right, so thank you for that, and thank you for taking a few minutes to listen to me today. Cheers.